So I was able to watch Migration, Illumination's newest movie, so was it any good? Well, here's my review on the movie. Let's start off with everything I liked about it. And for starters, this is different from other Illumination movies, in a good way. So instead of pop music, which every other Illumination movie has, even Mario, this movie doesn't have any pop songs in it. There's one song in the entire movie, and I don't even think that counts as a song because it's barely in it. So this movie is different from other Illumination movies by not throwing in pop songs left and right. Even the Mario movie fell into this trap. And I just found myself throughout the movie while watching it, I was thinking to myself that Migration might be better than the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It might be better. That's what I was thinking throughout the entire movie. Of course, I will dive into this later on, but that's what I was thinking throughout this movie. And to continue on that, just the plot in here, until later, which I will dive into, I really enjoyed this plot. I don't really think the trailer shows the magic of this movie as much as the movie does, but the plot in here, I found it to be, I mean, like, we've seen it before, but just the way this movie handles it, I feel like it makes it work and makes it interesting. I also really enjoyed the characters in here. This family you can put yourself in their shoes and kind of relate to them for certain parts. And then, yeah, I like the family in here, and they really work. Yeah, and this plot is just nice and simple that works well with this family that's not filled with pop music like every other Illumination movie is. And throughout the movie, I was just thinking that this might be better than the Mario movie. But, like I said, it does run into its problems, so let's move on to everything I did not like about the movie. Now, like I said, throughout the entire movie, I was thinking that this might be Illumination's almost their best movie. There's a couple better than this, but then the second act, or the final act of this movie came, and the movie fell apart for me. Like, there's this villain that doesn't need to be in the movie that I feel like just the migration story on its own is the story that you need. And then they try to add in a villain, and I feel like it just doesn't flow nicely with that villain in the movie. And it runs into problems, because that villain, I feel like the movies was working nicely until you added that villain in. Because at first, the villain was just a side problem, and then they became like the main villain of this movie. And then that doesn't need to be in there. It kind of breaks the movie, especially in the final act, where they just start adding this character arc to a certain character that, in reality, like, if this happened in real life to, like, let's say you're a father, and then you were talking to your son, something like this, how this movie played out for the character arc, it kind of would not play the way that it did. I could see a possibility where it could work, but the way this movie executed that arc, I feel like it doesn't really work in reality. I feel like, well, in a way, yes, but just the way it was resolved, I feel like it wasn't not real enough. Yeah, and these two things, the villain and the certain character arc, I feel like those two things, like, ruined the final act of this movie. And I feel like just the migration storyline alone could have been the story you kept with, and they just ran into problems, because I was, like, interested in that story. I don't want to say hooked, but I was interested in that story. And then they add this villain in and the character arc. I mean, like, yes, you need arcs, but there's a better way you could have executed it. And just the way it was executed with the villain and the arc, I felt like this broke the final act of this movie. But all in all, Migration, besides the final act, is a good Illumination movie. It's not filled with pop music. The characters are relatable. The story is interesting until the final act, where they add in a villain and a not real character arc. Well, it's real, but it wasn't played off as real. But Migration is a fun movie. It's a fun time, and it's just fun. Just a fun movie to watch. Yeah, it's just one of those Illumination movies where Yes, it is better than their other stuff because it's not filled with pop music and doesn't really fall into the same trap that others do. It's not their best movies, but it probably is in their top 5 or 6. So, I do recommend Migration, and out of 10, I give Migration a 7 out of 10. It's a high 7 out of 10. It's not low, it's a high 7 out of 10. I was thinking of giving it a 7.5, but I decided with 7. But, yeah, Migration is a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts. Follow my letterboxd, Color Movies, and I will see you guys all next time. Goodbye.